accelerator program for startups in healthcare, which from the very beginning, since it was introduced in Serbia, had a clear mission to establish a firm platform of healthcare and business professionals, young innovators, and investors for boosted development of healthcare startups in Serbia, stronger interdisciplinary and international collaboration, and attraction of local and global investment. Imagineif is a unique global initiative by Innovation Forum, run in more than 15 countries around the world, including Serbia. And it encourages passionate entrepreneurs to innovation potential of the healthcare industry and to build, in this case, Serbia, as a leader in terms of the development and application of these solutions locally and globally. For the realization of this program, we owe gratitude to our sponsors, Roche, our platinum sponsor, AstraZeneca, our golden sponsor, Swiss Contact, and Oxquant, our bronze sponsors. As we can see that the symbiosis between the creativity of young innovators and expertise of pharma and biotech giants in pioneering breakthroughs in the medical sector will be essential to push boundaries and deliver life-changing medicines and tech solutions to our patients. That is the reason why today with us we have four incredible professionals who will share with us their insights on the development of innovation solutions globally, as well as locally, and approaches for the successful transition of these innovations from bench to bedside, with the final aim to save people's lives. I will be moderating today's webinar along with my colleagues, Nevena Jankovic from Science Technology Park Belgrade. Welcome, Nevena.
Thank you.
And Dr. Ivana Kostić, co-founder of Health Tech Lab. Hi, Ivana.
Hello. Hi.
So let's get started. Let me firstly introduce our first panelist, our lady. Her name is Dr. Alexandra Vidakovic-Lazic. She is a country medical director at Roche. Welcome, Alexandra. Please introduce yourself and tell us about the organization where you come from.
Okay. Thank you, Stasha. First of all, thank you for the great opportunity to be part of this exciting webinar. And to introduce myself, I've been working in Roche for 20 years, and I'm very happy and looking forward to more years in Roche. Before that, I am a neurologist, so I spent some time at the clinic. And I'm now, as a country medical director, responsible for nice things, research and development, clinical trials, scientific communication, pharmacovigilance, registrations, regulatory, and so on. And now a few words about Roche. Roche is a company that is for more than a century playing a pioneering role in healthcare. And Roche is dedicated to innovation and adding value in different therapeutic areas. And these are oncology, autoimmune diseases, virology, diseases of the central nervous system. We have a unique situation and a unique position to have under one roof expertise in two very important areas, and this is pharmaceuticals and diagnostics. And because of that, we were able to take #1 position in biotech and in vitro diagnostics. What is also very important is that research and development is the main part of our work. And just for a short illustration, we are investing 1 million Swiss francs per hour, 365 days a year. So this is, and this is the way how we get to the innovation in healthcare. And nowadays, our strategy is to go to establish the personalized health care, meaning ensuring, enabling that the right patient get the right therapy at the right time in the disease course, so that the outcome of the treatment can be the best possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Our next panelist is Dr. Richard Saldana from Oxquant. He is the managing director of Oxquant. Welcome, Richard, and please introduce yourself as well.
Well, thank you, Stasha, and it's a pleasure to be here. I originally created in Oxquant in 2001. We are a small management consulting business. The aim is to basically do what I do best, which is apply my mathematical skills and training to solving real-world problems. We are focused on management consulting in the application of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. Our primary focus is finance, but we do get involved in healthcare, law, and even energy problems. Applied mathematics is a very versatile tool. In terms of my sort of pharmaceutical credentials, as it were, I do have a keen interest in medicine. I have an MSc in medical statistics. I also have a doctorate in statistics. These are very generic subjects. I co-head Oxquant with my good friend and business partner, Dr. Drago Injic, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself in a moment. Thank you, Stasha.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here. So our third panelist, as Richard mentioned, is Dr. Drago Injic, also Managing Director of Oxquant. Drago, welcome. Please tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, hello. Well, I was lucky enough to meet Richard very long time ago, more than 25 years ago, when I completed my PhD at Imperial College. And we've been doing data science for a very long time in finance, which is yet another highly regulated domain. And switching from domain of data science and machine learning and AI in finance to another highly regulated domain like health tech was reasonably easy. And in addition to some teaching and consulting, we enjoyed playing with data and helping institutions like Turing Institute in this country with some related problems. And doing this IF Innovation Forum was a challenge for me as a dual citizen, basically, to make the case for Belgrade on the map of global ecosystems. And it is also a privilege to be able to look at both directions, to feel like Belgradian in Belgrade or Londoner in London. And happy to meet all of you and take this forward.
So all the way from Oxford, where Oxquant is located, back to Belgrade to introduce our fourth panelist. His name is Alexandar Tripkovic. He is a country director of Serbia and Montenegro of AstraZeneca. Alexandar, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Stasha. Thank you for invitation. It is a real pleasure being with you today. As you said, I'm in role of country director of AstraZeneca for Serbia and Montenegro as of April this year. I am a graduated pharmacist, started my career 15 years ago in pharmaceutical industry and being in different roles in sales and marketing, government affairs and market access, mostly in AstraZeneca because I'm with this company for 11 years now. And about AstraZeneca, AstraZeneca is, for those who don't know, it is a global science-led biopharmaceutical company. If we need to describe AstraZeneca, I would use our purpose sentence: we push the boundaries of science to deliver life-changing medicine, and that describes that the science in the center of everything we do. So I hope that I will enjoy today's discussion and contribute to it. Thank you.
It is a great pleasure for having you all here. Before we start with the question, just to highlight that we have Q&A session at the bottom of the Zoom page where all our guests can ask questions to our panelists as well as to ourselves. So feel free to ask whatever comes to your mind during this discussion. Nevena, can you please take forward?
Yeah, thank you for your introduction. So let's drive today's discussion. An interesting fact is that 94% of C-level executives in big companies are not satisfied with their ability to innovate. Alexandra, you mentioned some great numbers when it comes to investing in innovation in your company, but how do you foster innovative ways of thinking in such big systems? And what are the areas of innovation that your company is focusing on?
Yes, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we are looking at the personalized healthcare now. So this is our global strategy, and we also try to implement it here locally. This means that it's a connection between the data about the patient and the disease, from the genomic to up to electronic health records, then analytics of the data and getting the insight about the disease and the patient, and finally using these insights, these meaningful insights, in order to really discover and develop the medicines or the healthcare solutions. So this is automatically means that the things are now becoming more complex than ever before, because this is now not only, you know, laboratory and clinical trials. This is also about the data science and other partners. So I would just like to show to you that how we have this cross collaboration across disciplines. A few years ago, Roche went into partnership with Foundation Medicine and Flatiron. Foundation Medicine is a company that is actually doing comprehensive genomic profiling, and based on that, together with the clinical decision support, it is able to, you know, define what would be the best treatment for the patient based on patient genomic profiling, and this applies for oncology. On the other side, we have Flatiron. Flatiron is a well-known company. It's actually an oncology electronic health records company, which has, again, cooperation with several oncology clinics and research organizations, and actually is doing this very deep dive into the data, getting insights that we can further on use to really design the best solutions for the patients according to their genomic profiling. So this is how it works on a, let's say, multidisciplinary level. But then that's why we are planning to, you know, have this collaboration with the different data scientists and data management organization. That's the reason why we are here. And on the other side, there is also example of how we do cross collaboration across countries, and these are clinical trials. We are very proud to say that we've been able to, let's say, bring a significant number of clinical trials to Serbia. And now today we are leading with a number of clinical trials among the other trials. Currently there are about 370 trials running in Serbia, and we have Roche have about 30 of them active and ongoing. What I have to say, what are the changes there that we have seen? It's that clinical trials are, these are international multicentric trials that are mainly phase 2 or 3. Some of them are even pivotal trials, meaning that the results will be used for the registration of the medicine. But what I have to say is the clinical trials are a very competitive area. And in order to get trials, you have to have some good parameters. And the main criteria are the timelines, the quality of the data, and the recruitment of the patients. So, and we have had very good experience with the local regulatory authorities, which 2 years ago managed to improve the regulatory environment for clinical trials in Serbia, so that we are able to have very short timelines to get trials running. From 200 plus or 300 days, we are now down to about 90 days. And that makes our country very competitive. Our quality, data quality is excellent because our physicians are excellent. And we are happy that with these clinical trials, we were able to offer the best treatment, the current innovative treatment to the patients with very serious diseases in Serbia. Thank you.
Alexander, what is happening in AstraZeneca?
So when it comes to innovations, I need to say that we, let's say, changed our strategies a couple of years ago. Not only that we changed our strategies, but we also wanted to, by example, to show our commitment to science and to innovations by moving our headquarters 4 years ago to Cambridge. The reason was because behind that is that AstraZeneca wanted to be close to universities, institutions, and science. And we have very good collaboration with all the institutes and universities there. So that was one of the reasons to show also our commitment to science. We have amazing scientists within AstraZeneca, but also we are open for innovations outside AstraZeneca, and we have a very strong collaboration, partnerships, and other way of collaboration with startups and scientists who are not part of AstraZeneca or institutes. So, for example, you know, we are present in, or we are actually present in 3 main therapeutic areas for us. That is oncology, cardiovascular, renal, metabolic, and respiratory with immunology. But as you could see last week, we entered in partnership with Oxford University to develop a vaccine for COVID-19, and we are expecting to get that vaccine until the end of this year. So we are not in, let's say, in this area. We are not a company that is recognized by vaccines, but because of the need of the patients and of all countries, we put also some of our resources and our scientists and our partners together to develop vaccines. So that shows also our openness for different initiatives, and for all the people who are participating or who are watching this webinar. I wanted to say and to invite them to visit our web page. We have we call that open innovation. That means that we are open for innovation, but for all of them, they can find more information or on the collaboration with AstraZeneca, and to find some question and answers, area of interest and different. So we are open not only for drug development, but also for technology implementation in our work.
Great. And if we consider innovations in broader picture when it comes to ecosystems, not every ecosystem will have all necessary elements to support on one side like world-class science, and on the other side to facilitate the translation of this science into successful businesses, which is also very important when it comes to application of different solutions. And you've already mentioned some activities, but what do you see as the main role of your company in contribution to Serbian ecosystem, and what is happening on the global level?
So is that a question for me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
Or Alexandra, if you're okay with that.
Okay. Okay, so when it comes to Serbia, what we can offer and what we can share here as ecosystem, first of all, we are here to provide our medicines to patients. And in everything we do, we put the patient first. So that is, you know, our mission. We want to provide access to our medicines from early stages. Alexandra already mentioned clinical trials. We also have clinical trials here in Serbia. But also when we register a drug here in Serbia, it takes time to get reimbursement. Usually it is 2 or 3 years. And we are, we try to find a way how to enable patients access to our medicine by, we have a different ways, either through early access programs or through some discount programs for patients. So that is one level of what we can do here in Serbia, but also from other perspective, we can offer our expertise. This is a great example of this initiative also. We can talk, yes, and we will talk later about Imagine If and our participation in this project. And we are open to help startups as well with our expertise in this area and to give some mentorship to them, etc. But also, we are not only pharmaceutical companies, we are also a company that is socially responsible, and we have a lot of activities when it comes to protection of environment. For example, I have to mention something that we will do worldwide, but also in Serbia. We have a project that we call zero emission by 2025. That means that we will move completely to carbon-free or carbon-free vehicles. That means that we are now already on hybrid cars, but we will be we will have a full car fleet on electric cars by 2025. Also, we gave commitment that we will plant 50 million trees by 2025 to offset the carbon emission from our production sites and vehicles as well. So we also have that initiatives here in Serbia. And there are a lot of other examples, but I can talk 10 minutes on this topic. But let's give a chance to Alexandra maybe too.
Okay, thank you, Alexandra. So basically, yes, I share with Alexandra this primary goal of our existence here in Serbia, and that's to have the best possible treatment of our patients. And having in mind that the healthcare systems are very complex, having in mind these, we strongly believe that the digitalization of the healthcare system will, help healthcare system to become sustainable and to have more patients treated with the best possible outcome. So that's why this whole concept of personalized healthcare and, relying on the data and data analytics and understanding the disease, the patient journey, all those gaps and the hurdles and the potential places to, let's say, reduce costs and to improve the outcome is something that we are really want to be partner in the development of this digitalization of the healthcare in Serbia. And that was the main reason that we joined the Digital Serbia initiative very soon after its foundation back in 2018. Because this is a fantastic platform that is, advocating this digitalization and digital transformation of the healthcare system of Serbia. And we strongly believe that this can make a huge step forward for the patients in Serbia. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your insights. Ivana, would you extend on this discussion?
Yes, thank you, Nevena. So I'm very happy to represent Health Tech Lab today, the local Serbian health tech ecosystem. We do create innovations, we'll help them grow and develop. And one of the best ways to do that is to be part of an acceleration program, but not just any acceleration program that gathers mentoring and funding, but also part of the Imagine If acceleration program, which basically bridges health tech ecosystem of Serbia with another even more developed health tech ecosystem where we can connect, interchange knowledge, connections, and so on. And one great example is also British Serbian Chamber of Commerce. So I know that there are representatives of this organization listening to this webinar, so I would just like to greet them. And about that, I would like to ask all the panelists, because you are all part of Imagine If Acceleration Serbia 2020. What are your experiences? What was your motive for joining? And how do you see that this is contributing to you and to all other participants of this acceleration program? So maybe Richard or Drago can start.
Shall I? Yeah. Let me take this question why, and then Richard can explain how. From Oxquant perspective, healthcare as a domain has a couple of beautiful properties. It is a data-rich domain, so we can have large quantities of all sorts of data, but it is also a highly regulated domain, meaning that decisions that are taken on basis of this data should be regulated and trusted and cost evaluated, etc. That was a principal motive. Why would a data scientist team like our team would get involved? An additional benefit was from a diaspora viewpoint, that it was a brilliant opportunity to use my local language and skills to navigate this system. And from that perspective, we have learned a lot. It was mutually beneficial to be able to have half of this mentoring in Serbian language and the other half in English. And also for us as a small company, it is always, it is very powerful driver to see that there are other people who are pursuing ideas, very creative people, very dedicated, who are taking risks. Most of these people did not go through very large organizations. They will be the source of innovation, and to come across these people and work with them is very inspirational. And I think we've achieved that. We have another benefit that we are both, we used to be professional investors, and we remain regulated in this country, meaning that anything related to business and finances and funding is coming as a second nature to us, which means that in using our skills as people who are able to crowdfund businesses or evaluate proposals, like, for example, for Horizon 2020, we can help these people to redesign or criticize business plan as well. So on top of size, that is a business plan and funding, and these are challenges that I think we've been able to help. And as always, Richard is going to correct all my mistakes and mention all the things that I forgot to say. So Richard, please.
No real mistakes there, Drago. But I'll just remind you that we are current investors in a number of startups. Let's see where they go, as it were. No, in terms of the how, absolutely brilliant from my point of view. To see, it was a real eye opener to see just how easily people can apply data analysis, statistics, machine learning, artificial intelligence to problems these days. Where we really helped, I felt, was in the understanding. It's not about just applying a kitchen sink approach, 10 different techniques ranging from cluster analysis through to support vector machines. It's really and crucially important to understand these techniques at a pretty low level. Once one does, it's possible to then apply them intelligently. And that's really where we feel that we provided some benefit. The feedback from the companies that we interacted with was extremely positive. One in particular actually changed their focus based on our input. They'd done some great work, but it was a little bit left field in terms of what they were trying to achieve. And it's great to apply our skills in such an exciting domain. And I think a lot of innovation comes from small companies, and that's not a criticism of large pharma, But I think we're all familiar with the biotech startups, the smaller companies, the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in a large company, but I work for large companies. It's much harder to get that innovation there. Very often you see it in the smaller company where the founder has basically put his entire life savings into that company, where everything is on the line. He's going for broke. He or she is going for broke, I should say.
Thank you so much. Alexandra, what is the AstraZeneca?
Yes. Yeah. Alexandra or?
Alexandra, yeah.
Ah.
Please continue.
Okay. So that's great. Thank you for the introduction. The big pharma is, now we are becoming entrepreneurial more. And we are going through this agile transformation, learning from IT sector. And this is exactly what we are looking now. Now today, medical expertise is not enough. Today, we need to have a data science. We have to have data science expertise as well. And that's why we go with the, this combination and the partnership with data management and data science companies. And on the other side, we know that Serbia is famous for its IT sector. And we just wanted to have a bit more healthcare and not just gaming and the blockchain. So we are hoping that the healthcare will become more popular for our IT sector here in Serbia after Global Accelerate project. So that's our reason to join this project. Thank you.
Now, Alexander from AstraZeneca.
Yes, we joined actually last year. That was the first one, if I'm not wrong. And the experiences from the first event was very positive. So we decided then to extend our collaboration. Last year, we were only one of the judges. And this year we are sponsors, and also we will be judge as well. But we offered the mentorship from our senior managers to participants in this year event. And also what we see here as an opportunity, so you never know what you can see, there are different ideas that you can implement and that could have a benefit for patients or for a system overall. So it is good to, to understand the environment. Again, what Alexandra said, we have very strong IT sector here in Serbia. So you can see a lot of ideas, but that mix of big pharmaceutical companies and small startups with very good ideas who are very fast thinkers, it is maybe a winning combination. So we are here to listen, but also to partnership with them.
Perfect, thank you. Now more specifically to AstraZeneca and Roche, but Drago and Richard, please join in the discussion if you think you can contribute. And it's more about collaboration between large pharma companies and startups. So how does this work? What are the benefits from one side and the other? And also, besides the Imagine If acceleration program, do your companies have other programs where you interact and collaborate with startups?
So,
Alexandra, yeah.
Alexandra, would you like to?
No, but you were on mute. It's okay.
Okay. So it is, that what we already mentioned, that big data and the meaningful data at scale. Meaningful means that they can get answer to the scientific questions, and that scale means that they are big enough to be generalized. So we are now facing the vast amount of data from all kinds of different sources and new sources. So we have data throughout the whole, patient journey, and we have data from omics, from genomics, proteomics, then from the treatment, from the outcome, follow-up, everything. And then you add on that the data from all these digital tools, health tools and variables and applications and patient-reported outcomes. And then you have to do something with this data. Today, data are gold. If you don't analyze the data are dead. So actually, we need these, as I mentioned, this combination of medical and data science in order to get the meaningful insights from these data. And then you can use these data for so many different things and for such a huge number of opportunities. As I mentioned, on the global level, we have different partnerships, and we are now trying to, through Digital Serbia initiative, through projects like ImagineIF, and also maybe through other channels, to bring this data science in healthcare here in Serbia as well. Because this is at the moment missing. We don't have this expertise that can...
Alexandra, going back to your...
Sorry?
Yeah, don't worry. I was just saying that going back to Alexander's comment on the need, and when there is a need, there is innovation as well. And across the planet, the cost of healthcare continues to rise dramatically, as we can see. And significant contributors to the increase in medical spending include the cost of drugs, the aging of population, and the more intensive treatment of chronic conditions. And it has become increasingly clear that the healthcare ecosystem is not financially sustainable as it currently exists. And now going back to the needs, not just for Serbia, but also for other global healthcare ecosystems, this COVID pandemic revealed the weaknesses and the needs for better efficiency in curing patients and focusing on technology that can bring solutions to save time needed for saving lives of patients. And ultimately, we come to this emergency that we all mentioned at the beginning, to innovate in non-ideal conditions. And this scenario of non-ideal conditions largely reminds me of the obstacles that Serbian scientists and innovators have in general, not just in times of this pandemic. So these kinds of situations are actually a wake-up call, a wake-up for the creativity to use it even more, to create and use everything we have to find solutions and save patients' lives. Alexander, tell us what has this pandemic revealed to us, and what did we hopefully learn from it? Besides the data that are now the main goal that Alexandra just mentioned, what are the other things that we learned from this pandemic that we can apply not just in the times of pandemia, but also in the general healthcare system after the pandemic, to improve the healthcare system in general?
Yes, but pandemic is like a spotlight, and for us, if we look on pandemic through and on the crisis through patients' glasses, then we could see all the good sides of our healthcare systems, but also we could see the weaknesses as well. And I will give one example, one positive example. For example, a year ago or a year and a half ago, we launched electronic prescription here in Serbia. Our system launched. And that helped, the importance of this we could see during pandemic, because patients didn't need to go to primary healthcare centers to get the prescription and then to go to pharmacy to take the medicine. So they could go directly to pharmacy and take their medicine. The e-prescription was prolonged from 6 months to 9 months to cover the period of pandemic as well for all patients. But you know, if we didn't have the e-prescription, we would have crowds in primary healthcare centers, and the consequences of that would be, you know, very serious. But let's go further. If we can have an e-prescription and don't need to go to GPs, maybe we could have a you know, a drug delivery for patients. So maybe we can use that e-prescriptions, and you know, someone from pharmacy or from pharmacy chains can come to patients and then to read the e-prescriptions with, I don't know, with phone and deliver the medicines. We don't need to take patients go out during the pandemic, but also during the winter as well, when we have respiratory viruses and the flu season as well. So that is another example. But also maybe we can now think about telemedicine or telehealth. So 2 years ago, when Nordic Business Alliance had a meeting here in Serbia to share their digital experience, one of the examples was they already had the checkups through Skype for example, patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And also they provided patients with a small spirometry devices, and then directly they can, you know, perform spirometry, and their physician could have results, and then to write the report based on that. So what we could see, why is that important? Because during pandemic, we had a lower mortality rate, overall mortality rate. That means that we managed to save the vulnerable groups of patients. Maybe we could think of saving their lives and protecting them during the, you know, seasons when we know that there is a higher risk for them. One of example was, as I said, during the winter period. So we should go further and think on telemedicines, maybe to employ younger doctors, to do that, who are maybe more familiar with the technologies and to help those patients. So that is another idea.
Thank you. Now, Alexandra from Roche, I would just like to make a small comment on this. We heard some great examples of shifting the focus or changing completely what is going on. So I'd like to say that people who were not in health tech are now actually involved in health tech, and those who are partially so shifted or adjusted in some way. So we have a lot of examples, and I will mention some from our own Serbian health tech ecosystem, but also like to make systemic changes of digital transformation. And also I'd like to mention that Health Tech Lab had moderated a panel during Western Balkan Digital Summit and also during one conference where the conclusion was the data is ready, but the system is not in Serbian health tech system. And now I would like also to share that Roche is definitely a pioneer in digital transformation of the whole region, not just globally. And I'm sure also through clinical trials, you have better inside knowledge of the health system and its readiness to adopt this systemic digital transformation. So please share with us your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. This is really one of the favorite topics. Yeah. So basically, yes, these are the experience that we have are from, of course, the clinical trials, but also from this participation at the initiative Digital Serbia. And there, what I can tell you is that actually Serbia at the moment has a great opportunity to do the leapfrog into the digital healthcare system. And there are many reasons for that. First of all, you know, the pivotal part of the healthcare system is actually electronic health records. And Serbia already, I think 85% of the healthcare institutions in Serbia have some kind of health information system. And this is very easily compatible among each other. This could be a great starting point to build further on that. So on the other side, there are many other examples like electronic recipe that Alexandra already mentioned. Then there is a ongoing feasibility and planning, and this is in process, the standalone digital solutions for digital imaging. With the central repository of imaging, with privacy protection, and also for potential for AI, because we already know that Google imaging for lung cancer proved to be even maybe sometimes better than the radiologist reading the imaging. Then there is also digital control of drug interactions, could be a quick win in this system. But what I told you is that these electronic health records are let's say, the most important one. And this could be a very good example we have in a similarly small countries like Estonia, Israel, and Ireland that did this integration of the electronic health records. We have them, but they are still fragmented. So it means that interoperability of the electronic health records on the national level would be is a huge step. And this could be done. I'm not an IT, but I believe that this is something that is feasible, so that the data can follow the patients, the data from the primary to the secondary, tertiary level, the data from the private sector, the data from the digital tools, patient-reported outcomes. So this is about the integration of the data. And this is also about what we also have to take care about is the structure and the quality of the data, because this is also something, but then again, our physicians are very well educated, and that won't be a problem to further develop that. What we also can do further is that there are some, of course, policy changes needed for this digital transformation. And this is about protection of the data, privacy. What about the anonymized sharing of data, anonymized data, and some other topics. The ultimate goal of this might be even to start with this clinical decision support, starting first from maybe easier, let's say, clinical protocols to help in reaching clinical decisions, and then building further onto the clinical decision support, which are more sophisticated systems that can help physicians to reach the confident clinical decision in real time at the point of care.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is something that is, we need to be fast. This is something that is growing exponentially. And the speed now is of utmost importance. So healthcare is a very extremely complex system. And on the other side, we have the fantastic rate of digital transformation in the everyday life, which we have to catch up. So this is something that we have to be very fast.
Thank you so much. I think we learned a few lessons, also our startups. So I'd just like to mention Doctorium, which is the startup that is participating in this year Imagine If Acceleration program, which built a storage system for the data, forming electronic health records, so involving patients and also private practice in Serbia. But then this COVID pandemic shifted them to focus on telemedicine. That was actually one of their ideas, but it speeded up them to get there. Stasha?
Okay, as we touched the data topic, Richard, you've been working for many years now in the sector of finance and the investment banking, and we've also seen a huge growth in medicine after the implementation of the statistical approaches for the analysis of big data. And when we had a discussion before this webinar, you mentioned one really good parallel between banking systems and healthcare systems. So where do you see the overlap of those two sectors, and what they can learn from each other?
Right, Nevena, I will definitely take your question, but I want to take us a little back a little bit. I'd like to comment on one or two things that Alexandra mentioned. And also we've got a comment from the audience from Gregor Kuzak, which is about interoperability between data centers and specifically about electronic patient records, it has been a problem, shall we say, that we've been grappling with in the UK for many years. I mean, nearly, I think probably 2 decades. And we still have electronic patient records in paper form. We have all sorts of splintered approaches within different healthcare authorities. It is not an easy problem, seemingly, from a technology perspective. We all like to think technologies here is going to, be a great panacea, will solve all our problems. It's very often not the case. And that brings me on to sort of what we were talking about in terms of data. The data are often there. The analysis is not joined up. And in fact, Oxford University's big data center, which is less than 4 kilometers from where I'm standing, have admitted failings in terms of dealing with other pandemic crises, other coronaviruses, in that they had the ability to actually analyze data from multiple trials, clinical trials that were going on, and they failed to, for one reason or another, the data weren't collected in the right way, or it was the wrong data that were collected. And so a lot was lost there. And what they're doing now is they're striving with COVID-19 to make sure that they analyze these data in the right way. And this plays to, this really sort of talks to the training that Drago and I have had, in that, it's about the core analysis. It's not about the politics. It's not about not even about the systems necessarily. It's about your core analysis, collecting the right data, and being able to analyze it in a coherent way. So now I'll pick up your question in terms of what we can learn from sort of fintech and medicine, pharma, and biotech, etc. Well, speed, I think, is one thing. There are lots of opportunities to get funding within the fintech ecosystem that don't necessarily exist within the sort of healthcare industry. The main reason is that people, finance is seen as a very much a commercial money-making enterprise. It's not altruistic. It's not sort of charitable in any way. It doesn't tend to be. And that's why you get that huge focus, and you do have wealthy individuals and companies who want to invest in that area. But I'll be honest with you, development in fintech and development in pharma both suffer from the same problem, in that a lot of technologies are actually siloed. A lot of developments are the preserve of individual companies. And of course, from a commercial point of view, you can't just share these things around. I think there's more scope within healthcare generally to share, actually, certainly share data to be more altruistic from that point of view. And I think the COVID crisis has actually highlighted just how one can go about doing that. When the mind is focused, there is a will to do these things properly. But what can we learn? I think from a healthcare point of view, it's sort of speed of delivery, and fintech has been very good with that.
Richard, we mentioned the point where we need to start anonymizing those data in order to interpret them correctly and use them in a certain ethical way, so-called creation of self-learning data, let's say. Indeed, as you said, this possibility has piqued significant interest from non-traditional players in the healthcare space who bring deep expertise in machine learning and data science, as we already mentioned. And Drago, we here seek to separate hype from reality and to understand the actual promise and challenges and limitations of the role that artificial intelligence, for example, and digital health technologies will play in healthcare. Can you maybe explain to us what are the challenges, what are the ethical limitations and threats in the implementation of these kind of technologies in the healthcare for now and for future?
I wish we can now break up in different rooms, because I can keep talking and talking about this problem. This is a great question and a great problem. And given that so many people have mentioned clinical trials as a concept, and I guess the concept of clinical trial is becoming now a common expression, I guess. Public will know what clinical trials are for and why are they costly, etc. That brings this great metaphor that for clinical trials to work well, in order to get these devices and drugs certified and available to the public, we need to develop trust in these methods and devices, because we're talking about safety critical concepts. This is a highly regulated domain. We would like to control advertising. We would like to detect fake medicine. We need actually a lot of machinery to make public health or health works for all of us, which means that this is not from a perspective of a pure data scientist listening to us. This is not just a data science problem. If it is only a data science with beautiful charts and beautiful data mining, we'll be fine. But the trouble is that this is actually a decision science problem, which means that first of all, we have something that we can call human in the loop. At the end of this process is a patient, which means that decisions that we are taking are not just a simple data mining. These decisions are called interventions. We need to take a costly and risk-weighted decision to do something, and that can cost a life. And that is a very different framework of mind. It is not a trading where you press a button and make $1 million or whatever. No, in a bad case, actually, at the end of this big day, now coming to into, if you like, a public eye, which is the cost of data, and the way that Richard and myself are getting involved is exactly at the end of any statistical or machine learning system, where we need to validate if the system is actually doing what it should be doing at ideally low cost and high quality of output. And matching these requirements, pure data science, and something that is not just a business requirement, but it is actually a regulatory compliance requirement, is very important, because it's not just about data, it is about outcome. And the concept of outcome is a very strong concept that you can push into direction of liability or a contract with the patient. Because in some health systems, we have this beautiful instrument that is called litigation, or suing your doctor, etc., which is a very tricky concept. And that is why a leading edge data science in these domains is operating in concepts that are called explainable artificial intelligence, or something like fairness and accountability and trust in machine learning, and a few others. And that is where we are as data scientists, because it's not just about beautiful charts and flattening the curve. It is about cost of all these decisions that are made and delivery of these decisions, which is bringing us again to patient outcome and etc. And I can go more and more, but I would let the rest of the panel after 1 hour to take next question.
Let's focus this. Let's put this actually in the actual perspective in terms of the pharmacy and medical topics. So we have higher implementation of smartphones and wearables. We have lower cost of DNA sequencing, for example. So we are all sure and we agree that there is a revolution in healthcare implementing data science. And the application of these kind of technologies to complex data on individual patients has offered the promise of using those population-wide data to better inform an individual's diagnoses and therapeutic plans for specific patients. Alexandra, this approach has potential to greatly impact not only the scientific, but also the medical point of view and activities of a region, as well as the economies. So now we're going back to this topic of interoperability of IT systems, etc., which will hopefully allow us, once we establish the system that works effectively, to step on this game and lead the population-wide project. Can you maybe give us an insight? What kind of activities does Roche have in terms of the personalized medicine and the development of tailored treatments?
Yes, what I would like first, there are several questions that I realized that you in your speech, and that's I would just would like to say a few words about interoperability for Serbia. I agree with what Richard said, but it usually is for the let's say in the Western European countries, they were very developed, comprehensive information system per institution. Here we have a similar platform in almost 80% of the healthcare institutions. They use this very almost the same software platform. So that's the reason why these optimistic stand for maybe easier interoperability comparing to the more developed healthcare systems. And now, how about the changes that these data can bring? These are, first of all, faster scientific development. Because if you have a genomic and then you have the electronic health records of the patients, then you can try and see what are the drivers of the disease. And that's how we enter this precision medicine. So actually identifying what is the genomic driver of a particular, for example, cancer. So, and then it leads to the more fragmented diseases. So today we don't speak about the gland cancer as a disease. This is 100 different diseases because of the underlying different mutational drivers. And that's why they demand a different approach and maybe even different therapy and have different prognosis. So this is one side of the story. The other side of the story, well, influenced by this, is a completely different approach to clinical trials. Clinical trials will have to be more flexible, more faster, with the same control of the safety and the benefit for the patient. But then you see they have to be exploratory based on the genomic profile in, for example, oncology. Then you have the rare diseases. Which you cannot run the clinical trial if the number of patients is so low that it will take years to have a meaningful experience. And then you're actually delaying the access to the drug to the patient. So that's how the high quality real world data can be used as a control arm for these kind of trials. And then there's let's say one of the holistic approach is that the more data you generate, the knowledge increase. So you can look at the healthcare system as the learning system, so that actually by analyzing the data about the patient journeys, about the treatment outcomes, the healthcare system can learn what is actually going on, where are the gaps, how to plan resources, how to allocate physicians, number of beds, whatever is needed. So actually, and by the time that you get the learning healthcare system, and this is a completely different digital ecosystem that we are talking about. And there are, again, some additional, let's say, more practical results out of this. If you, there are now different access models that are based on the data, based on the outcome. So there are, for example, we call it value-based healthcare, or the risk-sharing models, where you know, if you know the data about the patient, if you know the outcome, so you can share the risk. So for example, the pharma company will pay for the drug for the patients that is not responding to treatment, and the healthcare fund will pay for the patients that are responding for on the treatment. So this is all kind of different, you know, benefits that will ultimately improve the outcome, meaning that the patient will get the right treatment, but also will improve the sustainability of the healthcare system that you very rightfully said that it is under huge pressure now more than ever before. Yeah,
besides improving the medical system, I guess there is a big opportunity for science and Serbian researchers to step on the game and put this game to be as competitive as the global one, because conducting this kind of data-based research is not as costly as developing drugs or having laboratory-based experiments, for example.
Exactly, and these kind of data are more and more recognized in the scientific community all over the world, but not only in the scientific community, but also by the regulatory bodies, by the, you know, for the registrations, for the reimbursement. These data, if they are of high quality, they can be used for all these purposes. So that means that, you know, you don't have to have these extremely expensive clinical trials. You don't have to wait for the, you know, multinational clinical trial to come to Serbia. If you have high quality data, you can do your own scientific research together with the data scientist.
Exactly, and not only that, I guess if we have these kind of data, this allow better communication between doctors as well as scientists, so they can do this kind of, you know, job together in terms of like developing the strategies and solutions together. So Alexandra, maybe you can tell us something more about the strategies and activities that AstraZeneca is conducting in terms of the area of personalized medicine. And of course, we see a great example of AstraZeneca joining different kind of activities in the UK in terms of the big UK biobanks for analyzing genomics as well as different phenotypes and biomarkers for patients. Is there any kind of plan for to do this in Serbia? And what are the activities in AstraZeneca on this topic? I guess we lost Alexander.
We didn't, he just had to unmute himself.
No, it should be okay, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I wanted to say is, sorry, I started and went a couple of sentences and then realized that you don't hear me. Yes, actually, we call that innovative analytics within AstraZeneca, and we use a lot of big data and genomics indicators. So when we say innovative analytics, we think on integrating all the data, collecting through either big data or genomics indicators, and then put that in early clinical trials. So that means what Alexandra already said. We use that to choose the right patients, because it is a critical moment for drug development when you start to use a drug in a clinical trials in people. So if we know, if we analyze the data and know exactly which patients to choose at the beginning, then we can have a smaller group of patients in clinical trials, and then a shorter period of clinical trials, and also better analytics and outcomes of the trials. So that is one thing. Also, we are investing heavily in precision medicines. That means also that we are investing in diagnostics, in new biomarkers and the connection between biomarkers and precision medicine. So we launched, I think, 16 new testings with the biomarkers for 4 new products of AstraZeneca. And also we started to open globally IT hubs and to have collaboration either with governments or with the local partners on not only on data collection, but also on all new technologies that could help us in either clinical trials and drug development or in later in marketing. So we opened recently one of that in Israel. And yes, we are thinking of Serbia as well, but it is, you know, just on now decision makers to decide whether to choose Serbia or not. It would be, you know, great if you could have the opportunity to open here IT Hub. Also, we have a very important partnership with Microsoft. Recently, we signed the partnership agreement with them in Paris and opened their innovation hub. And also, they are very interested not in collecting the initiatives and ideas only from France and from that region, but also we can, you know, apply from Serbia as well. But again, I want to repeat the invitation for all those who are interested to go to visit our website, and really they can find a lot of information on how they can apply with their projects to AstraZeneca.
Great, thank you. So I would say that we live in the era of dataism, of data which is everywhere, and there are a lot of examples in the United States where they're collecting the data commercially to predict your health or your ancestry, but then also they include patients and even citizens, you know, which give consent for the research and for the results that could come out of that. And now I think it's great also to mention the example of our own ecosystem startup, another startup that is a participant of Imagine If Acceleration Program. It's Team Naopako, which is the first startup that is actually using the open data of Serbian institutions. So I think this is the beginning also of interaction between startups and institutions, companies in Serbia. But then from the industry point of view, another trend is, as we mentioned, also data, but then also research and collaboration between research institutions, academia, and industry. So more research is going to find resources for the research in industry, to seek different kind of collaboration. But it's also good to know from the industry perspective, and I would like to ask Alexandra and Alexandra about their opinions. When is the technology in the era of health tech, biotech, medtech ready to be commercialized? And what are the targets that we want for commercialization in this area? Alexandra, maybe?
So basically, as I said, the commercialization, it is, well, this is something that we need, you know, in the data, as I said, are a big, are a new gold. And, you know, that's a huge opportunity for the startups to work on healthcare data. But in order to do that, first of all, we have to have structured, integrated data, but also anonymized data, so that the startup can start working and analyzing and playing with the data. And as I mentioned, you can get all kinds of different use of data with that. On the other side, there are these digital tools that are, you know, enabling patients, you know, the patient is monitored by the physician through regular but infrequent visits. So for example, physicians see a patient once or twice a year, but what happens with the patient in between, that's something that patient usually they remember for a few days. so that nobody has the whole picture, what is going on, because the patient is sick for the 365 days and not for the just several days around the visit to the physician. So all these variables and digital tools, for example, there is a tool for multiple sclerosis that monitor the patient walking, using of hands, drawing, writing, even performing some tests throughout the year. And then the patient can show this to his or her physician, and then exactly knowing what was going on. Was this patient responding to treatment or not? And so on. So these kind of things, together with the patient-reported outcomes, and is something that will, improve the quality of the care for the patients, for sure. And then the genomics today. This is next generation sequencing went so far, and the costs are decreasing day by day. So today, for example, you start the diagnosis of the cancer with the test of the genomic. They see what is the driver mutation. You get the drug. Then at each relapse of the disease, obviously a new mutation is escaping. And then you do again the test. You can do it in the blood. And then the test shows you what's going on, and then you can check with another drug. You don't even have to know the primary organ where the cancer started. And this is kind of a tissue agnostic approach. We are not talking anymore about the breast or lung cancer. We are talking about different mutations that are driving the disease. So there are all kinds of different opportunities. Thank you.
Alexandra, would you like to add something?
Yes, if the question was when was the right moment to start commercialization of the startup or the idea or the project, then I think it is based on need. There is an evaluation process and the further development of the idea. But if there is a need on the market, it will be easier to implement that. Also, I have to say that, I mentioned that we started to work with small startups, and now we have already 250 projects that we started with startups. So that is, a very important point for us. And also we enable these scientists to access some of our labs and also some of our resources as well. So this is not a one-way collaboration, but also we are enabling them to have an approach to our either data or resources during the process.
Thank you. If there's anything to add, maybe Richard or Drago, or we can skip to the questions.
I'll just add in terms of sort of Serbia. I mean, I really like what I see. And one of the key things I think is your focus on education, and particularly STEM subjects, coupled with the fact that you have a small population. I mean, a population of 7 million. That compares very well with the population of London, which has 9 million, and there are nearly 67 million people in the UK. So you can undertake these large-scale projects for your country. It is quite doable. And I will just mention the e-baby that I heard from your Prime Minister. That was a great initiative to move from paper to something that's fully electronic and has worked completely seamlessly.
If I may just reply to my business partner, Richard, because this was a brilliant opportunity for us to demonstrate what we can do. But on the other hand, we managed to deliver something else, and it was US aid forecast that Serbia can do very well in terms of clinical trials and IT. And I remember reading this report 10 or 15 years ago, making these promises, selecting sectors that should be sponsored. And I think we have delivered. in both of these. Serbia started punching well above its weight in clinical trials and in IT. Both of these are export-oriented. There are many happy employees. And that brings this opportunity that if most digital TVs had chips that have been programmed in Novi Sad a while ago, now we have an opportunity to actually start deploying AI chips that are made by Canadian Serbs. And that is an excellent opportunity for our ecosystem, IT ecosystem and clinical trial ecosystem to keep delivering excellent value to our country.
Great. As we're approaching the end of this webinar, I would like to remind all the guests to ask their questions if they want in the Q&A section. And one of the questions here in the chat is, access to innovative drugs in Serbia is somehow restricted and slow. What can innovative pharma do in order to accelerate this flow? That's from Dragan Zdravkovic.
Okay, Alexandra, do you want me to answer that? Okay. So we put that topic on a table and discussed already with the authorities in the last 2 years, especially. So we managed to achieve some improvements in this field, if I can say that. For example, you know, for 2 years we only talked about innovations with the NHIF and Ministry of Health and importance of enabling patients in Serbia to have access to innovative medicines like all other patients in Europe have. And I think that, you know, we moved from the beginning, and especially during the last year, and by the end of the year, we got the, if I can say, commitment from different stakeholders that this topic will be on agenda not only for this year, but for the next years. They increased the budget for innovative drugs, if I can say significantly, if we compare this year's budget with the previous years. So it is almost, let's say, 8 to 9% additional funds dedicated for innovative medicines of a total budget for drugs of National Health Insurance Fund. So, and because of that, we have a new medicine, especially for lung cancer this year, for multiple sclerosis and for melanoma. And we think that this trend will continue. So this is, we don't have the situation that we had a couple of years ago. Now we have regular meetings and discussion with the NHF and the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Finance. So, but we work on this as an industry, so not the particularly companies, but this we can achieve for our patients only if we work together.
Okay, thank you. Alexandra, would you like to add something or?
Well, no, I agree completely. That was a great opportunity that and understanding to really take innovative medicines for our patients. And this is something that we are all working on. What I would just like to say that we are also trying to find out the best solution as you know, different models of how to really be partner with the healthcare system. And what I mentioned is this kind of risk sharing, which is supposed to be the let's say the fair partnership with the healthcare system. And this is something that data will enable us. So that's another opportunity of digitalization of the healthcare system, is that to have a better access schemes that will really, let's say, help healthcare system to get sustainability on the costs.
Okay, we have one more question from Bojana from the British Embassy here in Belgrade. And I would also like to mention that the British Embassy is the partner in this project. I mean, they're supporting the Imagine from the very beginning. So her question is, hearing about the enthusiasm and opportunities is very encouraging. But however, practically speaking, especially in terms of Serbia, how can companies, I mean local startups especially, overcome the fact that the local healthcare system is notoriously resistant to change, as well as blocked off by public procurement regulations? And are partnerships with large pharma the only way to grow the entrepreneurial ventures?
At least she cannot complain about quality of clinical trials, given how many British CROs are highly active in Serbia.
Yeah,
so, you know, I'm Bojana can, yeah, but someone else should address this question, because from a small business perspective, there is enough innovation, CRO, IT. It's a tough one.
Okay, Bojana, I guess that you've got some answers, but if you have something to add, please feel free. Okay, the next question is, what are we going to do with more and more genomic tests becoming more affordable and available to Serbian patients, but we still lack clinical trials and drugs in our country for those who need them based on their genomic profiles?
Okay, I can take this one. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a very good question, and this is something that usually is called actionability of the genomic profiling. So there are several, you know, a certain number of drugs that are available in Serbia that are have these companion diagnostics in comprehensive genomic profiling. So it's the availability of the certain part of the drugs is possible in Serbia. But the you know, when the comprehensive genomic profile, they don't, the results don't take care of the reimbursement or the registration. So sometimes there are molecules that are not registered for this disease and will never be. And this is what we usually call off-label. And then it is up to the ethics committees and the decision of the physician. And it depends on many factors. So that's the situation not only in Serbia, that's the situation all over the world. And this is also something that the healthcare system will have to learn how to deal with. So this is the beginning. And at the moment, there are specialized molecular tumor boards who are dealing with these kind of things, that they also must have a genetist or a molecular biologist on the board, together with the oncologist, surgeon, and everybody else. And they then reach the decision which is best for the patient, taking into account all the other characteristics of the disease, patient, lifestyle, stage of the disease, and so on. But this is something that is evolving, and this is something that the practice will show how it's gonna work. But this is a problem everywhere, not only here.
And one more question is, are there any plans for opening an R&D section of any pharma company in Serbia, as we have great scientists that would be able to contribute?
I can say for AstraZeneca, I don't know for other companies, but as far as I know, there is no plans in a near future. That is something that is, you know, evaluation of the market, the relationship with the government, and then you know, we need to advertise Serbia as a destination for R&D, a good destination for R&D. I mean, we have multinational companies, but not in pharmaceutical sector, that already open R&D hubs here in Serbia, for example, Microsoft and 7 Bridges Genomics, etc. So that is a good examples, and something that we should use in promoting these opportunities for Serbia. So it is not only up to us, it is also up to government to work on this.
Yeah, I can just say for the clinical trials, I mentioned that we can be competitive in the area of clinical trials because as I mentioned, we have excellent timelines, high quality of the data, and excellent recruitment. And this is something that we can work further on. So to get more clinical trials of different phases, including phase 1, which is the most difficult one. So basically, this is for the, let's say, more basic researches. There is a significant infrastructure to be developed. And this has to be, well, let's say, planned and developed in, let's say, in the planned strategically way. So this is something that asks for more, you know, investments and further steps. But for the clinical trials, we can be competitive. We can be a clinical trial, let's say, center for this region.
This is exactly what I wanted to sum up today's discussion with. So I would just ask Drago if there is something to add on, I mean, what's that specific in our Serbian ecosystem that we can use to turn it into our competitive advantage. Or Richard, if you have to add something, it's totally open.
I'll do one comment and I'll let Richard comment as a truly independent, unbiased guy. I believe that exactly what Alexandra said, it is a brilliant opportunity that we combine or cross-fertilize our competitive advantages in clinical trials and IT and make out of something out of that. From a startup perspective, I guess a little step forward will be to implement crowdfunding laws. I feel that there is a gap in risk finance in Serbia, and it is a marginal improvement of a current legal system to enable crowdfunding opportunities, whereby local ecosystem will rely on business angels and other entrepreneurs and people like Richard and myself to proceed. So that was an actionable statement, and Richard can comment on other perception, please.
Well, no other perception. I mean, my advice is play to your strengths. You're not, you know, you don't try and take on China or India. Play your own game, and you've got a huge amount in your armory, certainly from a science and technology perspective. You know, lots to offer the world here. So, you know, you decide the playing field, as it were.
Great, okay. I hope that we introduced some valuable insights today, and there is a huge thank you to all the panelists for their expertise. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. And when it comes to the Imagine If program, which is the main goal that we gathered today, I'm now pretty sure that we have created a platform that is bolstering all the ideas of the people who are in pursuit of innovation in healthcare. And what's more, I'm really happy to see our startup teams tapping into their full potential and competing on the global stage. Thank you all once again, and what can I say more? Let's meet on our next webinar soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Genia. Bye.
Bye.